How many roads must a man walk down before he can see the sky? Yes, and how many seas must the white dove sail before she can sleep in the sand? Yes, and how many deaths will it take till he knows that too many people have died? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. What have I done? What have I done? I must apologise first to you listeners who have anything other than ears made entirely of cloth that I just murdered a Bob Dylan song and I was his greatest fan in the 1980s. What has happened to me? The Protestants saying, yes, finally, he's bowing down to these statues. He's burning candles around Mary, who is the Queen of Heaven, Astarte, the goddess. He's bowing to his statues, he's kissing his idols, as Christian Prince would say. He's lost his mind. He's possessed. He's demon-possessed. He's under the influence, at least. If not drink, then something else. What has overcome me? And Catholics, they're despairing. He's going to destroy the reputation of the church here. We have great choral music. We have Palestrina. We have William Byrd, and now this character comes along. It must be post-Vatican II blues. Well, I have to say, I have my reasons. I have to go back to the beginning, how it all began. Last fateful Friday. Not the Friday of Francis, not D-Day, 13th of September 2024, but the following Friday, 20th of September 2024. I was going about my usual business, which is this. On a Friday, I tend to think, well, there'll be some good films coming on the telly this weekend. By the way, for you Americans or Canadians, the telly is television. I like to be, international in my explanations. So I go through the schedule and see what movies are coming on. A few Brits, movies are what we now call the films. What we call the pictures, which we still should call the pictures, but Americans gave us the term movies. So I'm going through the TV schedule, and there is on BBC 4 some folk musicians, Peter, Paul and Mary, and another one, I think Judy Collins, that they'd been recorded by the BBC years ago, and they were showing these, and I thought, do I want to watch this? Do I want to record this? I've got 2 thick hard drives of films, pictures that I've never watched. I'm just like that. I accumulate them. I'm almost as bad as with books. So I think, well, if I don't record it, I might later on regret not having recorded it, but it'll be too late then, it'll be gone. So I'll record it, and then if I want later on, I can delete it. Well, it was coming on soon, so I pressed it to record, and that was that, that'll be that. But because it was coming on soon, as I was going through the schedule for the rest of the weekend, the thing started playing, so I thought, well, I'll see what's that, and they were singing "Blowing in the Wind." It was a recording of a concert they gave in 1982 in Southport. Southport's infamous now. It used to be where I go for day trips. We never had holidays. I'm working class, I tell you, as they come. But we never had all this, but we went to Southport, places like that, which is not far really from where I lived, a train journey away, northwest England. But now it's, of course, the place where those 3 little girls were killed by somebody who, well, never mind. But this was a recording from 1982. And it was like these people, by the way, Peter, Paul and Mary, they were big in the United States especially, but also over here in the early to mid-60s. And they had a song, Puff the Magic Dragon, which we, I think, sang in primary school. And I loved it, little dragon, friendly dragon. I learned later that it's really about drugs. But anyway, it's still, I think Puff the Magic Dragon's a great dragon, and I forget this drug stuff. So that's Peter, Paul and Mary. And they sang, when I tuned in, they were singing this Bob Dylan song, Blowing in the Wind. And you know, it's kind of amusing to watch old stuff. In fact, it doesn't fill a widescreen, it's kind of very square. That's how old the thing was, 40 years old. This film that the BBC had taken. And in the audience, you've got these people, and you can see that just a couple of decades before, or 1.5 decades before, they'd have been, you know, real, like, you know, young Brits into the folk scene, into hippiedom, as it was to become. It wasn't yet hippiedom back then. It took sort of later in the 60s. And they're singing along to Blowing in the Wind. It all seems very sombre and solemn, and I'm getting a bit amused at this. As I said, I was a big Bob Dylan fan, big time. I went to see him in '81 when he came to Birmingham. Went to see him in Newcastle in '84, I think it was. And went to see him one other time in the 90s in London. And I'm not a big concert goer at all. I'm not going to spend my money on all that. I don't think I'll go and see Taylor Swift either. She came out for What's Her Face? Kamala, however you say her name. So, Peter, Paul and Mary, the audience, singing Blowing in the Wind solemnly. Like it's, you know, a cross between a meditation and a hymn, really kind of softly. And looking at this audience, because they're now no longer young, they're much younger than I am now, just to get that straight. I can't patronise people the way they look from their age, but they were kind of, you know, in their mid-30s or 40s or whatever, and older. And it's kind of funny thinking these were the young things 20 years before, and they're all righteous and everything, and into civil rights and so on. And here they were, kind of, you know, getting a bit paunchy like we all do, and singing this song, remembering their youth, as we all do. And as you young folks will do too. And then they go on and sing another song. One, I don't recognise it, but love is in the song a lot. Repetition of the word love a lot. And because I've got this kind of, you know, attitude, I find this little bit, you know, a bit, what's the word? Treacly, that's the word. I find it all a bit treacly. This is what happens when you get older. I was told when I was young, I'd stop being a lefty, an idealist. One of my lecturers told me in '81, you're aiming for the moon. I was talking about the society I wanted in my socialist naivety. Older people have a lot to tell us. So we grow up, we become more cynical, we become more worldly. It's the way it is, it's okay. So I'm looking at this video of Peter, Paul and Mary doing their set. How treacly it is. Especially they're talking about love all the time in this song. And it occurred to me, so they're talking about blowing in the wind, they're talking about love. So what if I could go back in a time machine and I'd go to the concert and I'd stand up and I'd say, everyone, Peter, Paul and Mary, everyone, it's wonderful, love, yeah, love, love, love. And how many years will it take till he knows that too many people have died? So, Peter, Paul and Mary, everyone, you're all against abortion, aren't you, with me? And you know what happened, don't you? The dirtiest looks you could ever give to a man will be given to me at that point. Peter, Paul and Mary would stop, shocked and disgusted that I've interrupted their set with such talk, such unseemly talk. And then I'd be bundled out, and that would be the end of the vision. And so I'm thinking this, you know, and I bet I'm right. But it's just my imagination. Getting too old, you see. But then it occurred to me subsequently, am I right? Am I right? Is this really how it would have been? Maybe I'm impugning these people. Maybe I've not picked something up. Maybe I've just been kind of like too long in the tooth for too long on this earth. So today, I finally got round to doing something that crossed my mind. I typed into Google, you can do this, Peter, Paul and Mary, abortion. And here's what I got. Okay. Get rid of these adverts. No reason why I should give adverts free to you. I mean, spread their adverts by this video. Here it is. It's a UPI story from 1989. So 7 years after that concert, called Abortion Recalled. Mary Travers of Peter, Paul and Mary says an illegal abortion almost killed her in 1960. Travers contracted peritonitis and it took large doses of penicillin to save her, she says in a pro-abortion rights article written for the New York Times op-ed page. By the way, I tried to get that, but they got a paywall. I'm not going to pay these guys, New York Times particularly, but nobody anyway, to get all the news. Fortunately, there's this, which is free. At the time, Travers was a divorced mother struggling to get her career going. Quotes, having an abortion didn't seem to be a choice, quotes, she said. Quotes, it seemed to be a responsibility to both the child I already had and to myself that having a second child would have thrown us back into what appeared to be a hopeless future. Travers, who now has 2 daughters and a granddaughter, says tighter abortion laws will result in more unwanted children with dim futures. Quotes, although they give lip service to adoption, I don't see these anti-abortion groups giving homes to poor minority children, she said. If they did, I might feel their sense of morality to be a bit more genuine. Sadly, they seem unconcerned with the grinding poverty others must endure. Unquote. In fact, that is the end of the article as I scroll down. It's just adverts and stuff now after that. Just before I go on to what else, because I wasn't thinking of this latter point, it came to my mind. These people, Democrats in America, socialists, Labour Party people in Britain, Liberal Democrats, Liberals, they always say, oh, you're going against abortion, but what you don't care about the poor kids, do you? Why don't you do something about them? Well, I know there are things that our people do, Catholics and others, for women who are going to have a child, but they just are very poor, even with the welfare systems we have. But the question is, Mary Travers wouldn't have been a poor woman. She's passed on now. Hopefully she saw the light before death. She wasn't a poor woman. What did she give for mothers in poverty? Peter and Paul, who were with her, what did they give to people in poverty? What do the rich Democrats give for women in poverty who face the choice of abortion or having a child? It applies just as much to them as it does to us. Especially when they're kind of pontificating to us about how they think we're not focusing on the needs of poor women with kids. I just wanted to say that because that's never said. Now back to the main thing. Mary Travers is pro-abortion. She thinks that you can, under certain circumstances, for certain reasons, like societal issues of poverty, you can kill a living human being inside the body of its mother. Perhaps I should say its host now, because perhaps you shouldn't say mother anymore. Well then, all that talk of love, and using Bob Dylan's song, I don't know his position on abortion, all that talk of love and how many deaths will it take till he knows that too many people have died. How profound, how spiritual, how deep and meaningful. How touching. You know, in this country, I mentioned how I was talking about the nature of the shepherd in another video. I was talking about how England is full of foxes. I had foxes digging dens in my back garden. I'm in London. And I saw the little cubs just beneath the fence once, but I had to stop. The mother was extremely aggressive if I came out to the garden. So I had to kind of get all that sorted out. Did no harm to any animal. Wouldn't want to do that. They're so close to being dogs that I couldn't wish harm on a fox. Nonetheless, people, we had the anti-fox hunting movement. In fact, I remember an essay in school in the 70s was saying, write an essay on the pros and cons of fox hunting. It's good to do essays like that because, you know, you get to think about the other point of view. By the way, born again Christians, you do very well to do that exercise. Muslims, you'd be very, very wise to do that exercise. Do any Catholics out there say, my church alone, just because I was born a Catholic, that's it? Then you'd be very well to do that exercise. Anyway, foxes. So important. Anti-fox hunting movements, get those toffs with their red jackets and their hounds out of the countryside. You can't hunt foxes, it's outrageous. Hey, listen, I'm not here to say whether fox hunting is right or wrong. I eat meat. I must say, I eat meat. Animals are dying, and I eat meat. They're dying more because I eat meat than if I didn't eat meat. But then the vegetarian system ends up killing animals anyway. What you spray on all these cabbages and carrots and tomatoes to give you a vegetarian lifestyle? What are you killing to make these fields full of vegetables through the horizon? We kill animals, we can't avoid it. I would stop one thing though, the wretched windmills. The wind power thing, which slaughters vast numbers of birds. I'd demolish those windmills like that. But I'd be getting onto another topic if I talk about that. Foxes. All this talk about foxes from the 70s onwards. Whilst we had passed a bill in our parliament in 1967 to enshrine a right to abortion. Let me tell you how beautiful Britain is. We had the 1861 Offences Against the Persons Act, which enshrined a long tradition itself before 1861. It said abortion is killing a child. That's why I'm a patriot. You can't not be when you know your country's history. But that was chucked out, part of the plan by the Home Secretary Roy Jenkins, which he basically formulated in the 1950s to change our civilization in this country. Roy Jenkins, shame on him, a miner's son, but became one of Labour's intellectual lefties and took the party away from its working class roots. And now look at the Labour Party, my gosh. Anyhow, foxes, they must be protected, and now they're protected, aren't they? But since 1967, human beings are not protected. What does that tell you about this country? We'll sing stupid songs like Blowing in the Wind. I say it's stupid because we got all this rubbish going on. I mean, Bob Dylan, just to get him, he wrote in 1981 a song which was about bombing Saddam Hussein's nuclear facility. Because Bob Dylan is Jewish, you could see his ethnicity was coming out, and he wrote that way. But you know, he was then a born-again Christian. But we can't be talking in elevated terms if we then become tribal. If it's okay, if we can kind of have these special exceptions when we want to be brutal. Just shut up, Mr. Dillon. Shut up, Peter, Paul and Mary. I can accept that a person can be pro-abortion because that's the way they are, and that's the way the world is. We're fallen people, and people are pro-abortion for entirely selfish reasons. There's no justification for it, but it is the way it is. I accept the world as it is. I'm not a fool. Well, hey, it's a bit of a broad statement, isn't it? On this point, I'm not a fool. I don't imagine the world is different from what it is. It is the way it is. The Catholic Church has explained it. It's the consequence of original sin. We're not going to a beautiful paradise before Jesus makes it happen. We're going down. That's the way it is. And it always will be. Once the Catholic Church was taken off the throne of civilization, downhill was the only direction we were going to go in. And it's prophesied by Jesus when he says, will I find any faith on earth? Will the Son of Man find any faith on earth? In St. Luke's Gospel. And when we see the state of the world in the book of Revelation, we're going down. And that's it. But please, in the process, don't tell me about love. Don't tell me about tolerance. Don't tell me, what is it they say now? Oh yeah, we believe in love. You believe in hate. We with the rainbow colours believe in love. You with your crosses and your right-wing attitudes believe in hate. Please spare me. Though I'm realistic, remember I said, talking about love and talking about hate is part of the plan. It's an ideological activity. You know, Joseph Goebbels said that, repeat a lie often enough and people will believe it. But Goebbels was misrepresented. He wasn't saying do that, he was saying that of the enemies of his particular party. You don't have to be a Nazi to not be, seeing certain things that are said by your enemy, the enemy of our religion, Catholicism, that are true statements. Goebbels was right. Speaking of hate, the ordinary British people will identify the pro-life movement, the anti-abortion movement, as being hateful. Talk about love. Helping a woman kill what is it, the human being that is inside her, is love. But killing the little furry fox is hate. None of this is rational. But we need to realise the world's not run on rational lines. If it were, we would still have the high Middle Ages in principle with technology, with central heating. We'd have the papacy as the head of the spiritual realm. And we'd have Christian kings as head of the political realm. And they would not be in conflict. They would not be merged, as in Caesaropapism, which is the Byzantine Empire. There would be two united spheres. There'd be areas in which there was overlap, and that would be where the church had rights to speak to the secular power about what it could and could not do. But broadly, there were two spheres, and they'd operate in harmony. Now, in reality, there was this understanding, but there was disharmony, and that's normal, and that will always be the case. But when you understand the way things should be, and only Catholics really do understand the way things should be, as I've outlined, then you know what you're heading for. You've got a goal. But in the irrational world in which we inhabit, I won't speak of gender. I'll simply say black is white and white is black. You'd never have thought, would you, that could ever be the case? But in fact now black is white and white is black. We are in the realm of absolute insanity. And Peter, Paul and Mary are an early example of this. So, knowing that we're in an insane world, that the lunatics got the keys to the head office of the asylum, threw out the management and the doctors, took over, and now lord it over the sane ones, we must be firm. We must not give an inch in terms of what we know to be right, because this is just going to get worse. These lunatics are going to tell us Catholics and Protestants too that if you don't fall in line, and they already are of course, if you don't fall in line there'll be consequences. And though there are consequences now, There's a man called Burke in Ireland who's in prison because he, as a school teacher, wouldn't call a boy a girl. I think something like that. The guy's in prison, he's a Protestant, you see. I think it's Northern Ireland. This is why I said before I loved Reverend Ian Paisley, a total anti-Catholic Protestant. Anti-Catholicism. If I met him, I'd have argued with him till the cows come home about his false religion, but I love the man. And I love these Ulster Protestants. They're the only ones who hold the line against abortion. Our mealy-mouthed bishops, Catholic bishops, are nothing compared to these Protestants in Northern Ireland. And the man is in prison. So you see where it's going. It's Ireland. Ireland. Not even this country. Not even this mainland. So things are going down. And I had to get this off my chest. So what should we say then? Come gather round, people, wherever you roam, and admit that the waters around you have grown, and accept it that soon you'll be drenched to the bone. If your life to you is worth saving, then you'd better start swimming or you'll sink like a stone, for the times they are a-changing.